News Talk 640 WFNC. 738. Joined in Studio One right now by KIRK deVIERE, who is the chairman of the Cumberland County Board of Commissioners. KIRK, how are you this morning, sir?
I'm doing well. I hope you are.
I am. I took a day off yesterday for some medical stuff, and here I am back in the saddle again.
Crazy weather.
It is. It is. You see the full moon coming in here?
It's just unbelievable. It's
Yeah.
cold one day, warm the next.
Well, all that aside here, we have a lot of stuff that is always going on in the county. It's one reason we decided, you should come on once a week, just like the mayor does, and talk about different things that are going on. Now, this is the fifth Tuesday of the month, so there was no county meeting yesterday.
Right.
But there's
Our next meeting is a week from Monday.
And it's open to the public.
In the morning, yep, 9 a.m.
And if you can't make it there, there's other ways to see it.
That's right.
It's being live streamed, I guess, and on Spectrum TV or TV Channel 7.
Easiest way to do it is go to our YouTube channel, go to our website, go to our YouTube channel, and watch it right there.
It's right there. All right, a lot of things that you're under discussion. You talk about this water meeting that's scheduled for tonight.
Yeah, thanks, Goldie. I almost called you Goldie. Gilbert.
That's all right. I'm starting to look like Goldie.
He's been gone a while.
Yeah.
So tonight we have a community town hall to talk about our water and sewer districts in Cedar Creek. That's going to happen at Stedman Elementary School. And just to explain to people so they understand what districts are, these are really just a way for us to organize and plan. We know we have, issues with clean, safe drinking water and contamination across this county. And so as we begin to organize and plan on how we are going to resolve those types of problems, this is a way we plan by district. And so we're forming a district in the Cedar Creek area. What it doesn't mean is it doesn't mean bills are coming. It doesn't mean we're going to make you connect to anything. It doesn't mean there's construction or anything starting. It's just a planning step. It's not a spending step. So it's pretty straightforward. We want to educate our staff is going to give an overview of what we're doing, what's happening, and then allow time for the citizens to answer or ask any questions, and the staff will be there to respond to them. So again, this is just part of the process on how we are addressing the water and sewer issues across our county, and this is just a step in that process as we continue. Our community has clean, safe, regulated drinking water.
All these things can be confusing to the average person who just lives in the area and just trying to make a living, trying to make things go by. Because you mentioned, the first thought is, oh my gosh, it's going to cost me some money to do something. But you can't determine a lot of things unless you figure out what it costs overall to do what you have to do. And so the planning is there.
That's right. District just gives us a planning tool, a way to organize, a way to look at how we bring resources into that district to ensure that we provide clean, safe, regulated drinking water, as well as look at sewer in that area as well.
The normal thing that happens when you hear this, either through annexation or whatever it might be, is now there's going to be a hookup fee, and there's going to be a lot of construction.
Right.
But we're not at that point, at least not yet.
Well, and we may never get to that point. So right now, it's a planning tool. It's not a spending tool. You're exactly right. When people hear that, they immediately think, "Oh my gosh, there's a connection fee." This doesn't have anything to do with the connection fee. This is about what resources are already there. What do we need to build out? What do we need to look at? It's a planning tool, not a spending tool.
But in doing this, and you and I have had this discussion in past meetings, is the fact that the county can't really grow and expect businesses to come here if some of the infrastructure is not in place. And you've talked about that.
Yeah.
Just let folks know why that's important.
Yeah, it's extremely important. So actually last week we had an infrastructure meeting focused specifically on industrial growth and business growth. So as you look at Robert Van Gien's and the great work they do at FAYETTEVILLE, the Economic Development Corporation, they need areas that they can grow to, that they can recruit business, they can recruit industry to. We have to have the infrastructure, the water and sewer capacity in those areas. If you look at the corridor, the 95 corridor, the 401 corridor, the 24 corridor, the 87 corridor, we have to make sure we have the infrastructure in place, not only for the industrial growth, but also the long-term
residential growth that we're going to see as well. But it's critical that if we're going to be able to recruit the industries like you see up in Smithfield, like Vulcan industry, or more of the titanium plants that we just recruited here, we have to have the infrastructure in place now ahead of the time to recruit these industries in. And that's what part of this summit was, or this meeting was last week, to look at how we do that, break it into these corridors, and begin to look at resources and cost and the partners that participate in each area. Because there's a lot of different utility partners, whether it's natural gas, whether it's electric, whether it's water, sewer, and then the different municipalities that are in each one of those corridors.
The fact that Fayetteville and Cumberland County has been known for years as a bedroom community to Fort Bragg, that is changing in terms of the type of industries that are looking at Cumberland County as becoming home. I know you guys got to kick yourself, and so does Robert Van Gion, when another community gets a project that we felt that we could have had here at our home, and we don't get it because either infrastructure is not there, or maybe we don't even have the land space because that's even running out.
Well, I mean, it's not the land space we're running out of. So when you look at 100, 200 acre pieces of land, it's, do we have the infrastructure there? And that's something we should have been doing 15 years ago in planning for where we are. You look at some of the areas around us. You look at the Sanford area, the Harnett counties, and some of these Johnson County and some of these other counties that did some forward planning, and now they're reaping some of the benefits of it as well. You have to. Prior planning prevents, the expression from the Army, and so it's we have to do we're playing catch up now a little bit. So it's not that we don't have the land. We've just got to get the infrastructure in place. We've got to bring the partners to the table. Look at the best, most the most cost effective route, but also the route that's going to provide us the assets and the capacity that we need inside our county to be able to receive not just the business side and the industrial side, but also the residential growth that we need to see, and making sure that they're going in the right areas. Because that's the other thing, as we're planning this out, we want to take those land use plans that have been approved by the communities and lay them over to make sure that when we build, we're building towards that future growth. So if we're saying we're going to have residential in that area, then let's build out to residential standard, urban standards. If we're going to have industrial in that area, let's build out to that area, making sure that the pipes and the resources match the land use long term.
The problem for county commissioners and even city council members or whatever it might be, even state lawmakers, is being able to remove yourselves from the emotion of a situation in order to plan 4 or 5 years down the line. And so that's easier said than done when you have constituents who are embedded in the community. This has been my parents' home. This is where I live. And there's an emotional tie to not wanting to accept change. How big of a challenge is that, getting the community to get the emotion out of things?
I think it's just an education and conversation, and it's part of like what you're seeing in the town hall tonight. It's going out and educating and talking to the community about what we're doing and not just springing something on them, but also, they expect government to work for them and not play catch up. And unfortunately, that's what we're doing right now, but we have to engage the community, educate. When you talk to Mayor Burnett that had screamed for years to get water into this community just to put 100 houses, 100 people to come into Godwin. It's a lot of people. It's tax revenue for them, but it's also growth for their small town. He's just now starting to, we've got the framework in place for him to be able to do that. But we've got to educate and work with these municipalities to understand that's the importance of a land use plan. What do communities want to be? What do they want to be in 5 to 10 years? And that's that community input that happens when you're working those land development plans.
The problem there when you start talking about water, and a very important discussion tonight, is the fact that we have forever chemicals in many of the wells. And so folks want to make sure they have a reliable, suitable source of water for generations to come. That's what the planning is.
That's a driving force where it makes this, this is a health issue now. This isn't just how are we going to grow? This is a health issue that our community faces. And so that's a big driving factor in why we're moving at the rate that we're moving now, is because there is a contamination issue. And we have, as a county, a duty to address that. And it's extremely critical right now, which is why, the other piece of these districts that we're putting in place that will address the contaminated water, because we'll have regulated, clean, safe, regulated water coming to those parts of our community.
We talked about the confusion when we talk about these issues like water and the county being behind some things that should have been done 15 years ago. That we're just finally getting on board. Schools come under that as well. Let's talk about that because this Board of Commissioners has funded the school system beyond what they wanted, or at least where they wanted. But there's some confusion now still about who uses the money, or you guys have provided the money. You haven't heard from them. What's the latest on these schools that are going to be changed and all that, and the ball's in whose court right now?
So a few things. I'll step back, over a year ago, and again, another area of public education where we have not made the investments we need to make over time. And that's why you see almost $900 million to deferred maintenance. We woefully underfunded the maintenance of our schools, which is why some of them are in the condition they're in now.
Let me ask you one thing before you continue with your thought here. Is that the fault of the administration from the schools maybe being afraid to ask for the money?
They asked.
They've asked, but
they've asked. A perfect example, if you look at 2024, they asked for over $400 million. That was not funded. What we have funded in this community has been historically lottery proceeds, as well as a portion of the sales tax dollars that go towards education. So it's been the things that flow down from the state versus the additional investment that our county needs to make with our general fund dollars, and that's what you're seeing now.
Well, if you would think, and I play the lottery, as much money as the lottery generates, that schools should be free of any cost of anything.
That's a whole nother hour conversation, but let me circle back on where we are. So last year, the school board had over $800 million of deferred maintenance. They had a consultant. They came in. They showed us the reports. They said, hey, if you can give us, this dollar amount, $300 million for deferred maintenance, because that's about all we can do in this time period, plus about another $160 million for new school construction, then we'll come back to you with a plan. Last year's budget, we did that. We set aside the money. We put it in we worked our debt model to where we have that funding set aside to be able to do that. What we are waiting on now is the school board, and you're seeing this process that the school board's going through. I've been on here many times to say, waiting for the consultant report to come back, then the school board will make decisions. So they're making those decisions on repurposing of the schools, what it would look like if there's any school closures, school realignments, where they want new construction. Once the school board makes a final decision on that, and a timing of it, so what schools are they going to do when, then they provide that to us as the county commissioners. We take the funding that we've already set aside, and we go ahead and plan that out. Now, some of that has to be issued in bonds, and some of that is pay as go or cash that we would have depending on, the timing of the construction or the maintenance. And so really we're waiting on that schedule. And there's talk about, well, we want to do more new construction. Okay, well, give us the timing of that and ask us if it's above what we've already allocated. It's a simple process. It's not the hard process, really, and my hat's off to the school board for going through this process, is, they've got to make a decision on how we're going to, what the schools are going to look like moving forward, which ones are going to be repurposed, which ones are going to be moved, what programs are going to be closed, and more importantly, which schools are we going to build new as well? Our elementary school, high schools like E.E. Smith, what are we going to do? And then the timing of those as well. And the staff, provides that. Our staffs work great together. I routinely talk to our school board chairwoman as well, Chairwoman Musgrave, and we just need what their final plan is, and then it comes over to us, and then we begin the process to put the funding package together to push it back out to them.
We have time for one more topic here, probably. And is there one you want to talk about? Or do you want me to pick one?
You pick whatever you want.
Well, I'd like to talk with you and the mayor about is the data centers and the importance of those to the community, and making sure people have the right information about what that means to our community, how much resources it takes, and what is the potential for there to be some financial gain or some benefits to it that's provided by the folks who operate those centers?
A lot of conversations around data centers right now. Where the county is we've gone through, sat with economic development through an education process that they had. We then thought it was important to have a public forum where we could hear from the citizens around what their thoughts were about the shaping of the community. What we can do as a county is we can shape the development ordinances and begin to, that's how we can kind of guide the framework and the development of any data center or really any industry. So we had an hour and a half public forum. We had over 30 speakers, 100 online submissions where we got all that information. And now we're directing our staff to do a couple different things. We've asked for what the framework for a moratorium looks like and some time frames around that and the steps we have to go through to do that. And we expect to have that back at our April meeting, our April work session coming up on the 16th, or agenda session coming up on the 16th. And then based on that input, then we'll begin to look, working with our planning department to look at kind of lessons learned, best practices, and begin to look at any type of ordinance, regulatory things that we would put in place for data centers. The key thing is that we're listening to the community. We're looking at best practices across the state and nation to look at the best ways to do this. But more importantly, we want to hear from the community, and we heard from the community, and we listened and we heard them as far as, and we're continuing to, engage on that level as well.
Well, and the thing about it is most of the folks who want a moratorium, for example, for a year, probably in the year would probably want another year moratorium because they are dead set against having a data center, no matter what information is brought to them. But
I don't think that's just. I think the big concern we hear is, yes, there are concerns about data centers. There's pros and cons of having them in your community, of course, from the resources, but also the investment that it brings. So there's a pros and cons. But I think what we really heard is just slow the process down. Let's look at everything. Don't rush us into a situation that puts our community, in a bad position, or we don't have all the facts in front of us to make an informed decision. I think that's what I've heard more than anything.
Well, let me just say that based on the 911 center and Station 4 and all the other things that have been going on for some time, there's going to be no rush to bring a data center to Cumberland County next week. KIRK deVIERE, it's always a pleasure to have you here, sir. My Ranger buddy. Rangers lead the way.
Well, I appreciate your time.
All right, you're listening to News Talk 640 WFNC. Let's have Fayetteville's most dependable forecast with Rachel Dunsing.
Tuesday is starting out a little warmer in the morning. We will then be mostly sunny by the afternoon with a high of 82. Overnight will be mostly clear with a low of 59, and Wednesday will be partly cloudy with a high of 85. The rest of the week will be warm and mainly dry, other than a passing shower Thursday and Friday. But our best chance for rain arrives after Easter with a cold front. That is your Fayetteville forecast. I'm CBS 17 meteorologist Rachel Dunsing.
All right, Joe, thank you so much. Right now, 59 degrees across the board in Fayetteville, Hope Mills, and in Spring Lake. You're listening to News Talk 640 WFNC.
Fayetteville's first in news and information for 4 decades. News Talk 640 WFNC. Just say, Alexa, play WFNC.
Now playing News Talk 640 WFNC.
Okay, you know you love spring. You know your plans to make your yard beautiful. I'll bet you didn't know. Just one click will get you an incredible deal at